Oh, huh. Live, yes. Live, no. Live, maybe. Welcome. Full Crazy Town, episode 26. Says I'm live, so I guess I'll believe him. Never know. After last Sunday, I started listening to Sabby Sabs, and she always has interesting segments. She doesn't always go with breaking news, Putin this, Israel that. Last week, I kind of got in on about halfway through something. She was talking about, hang on, let me get some background noise out of here. To do this beforehand, because I was having difficulty signing in and going live and all that stuff, I decided to try at about 2:55 today, just in case there was a glitch. There was a small glitch, but not a big glitch. Big glitch. Big glitch, don't bother me. Hey, what's wrong? I got a burned out bulb or something. See, that's those incandescent bulbs, or is this LED? I don't know. What the heck? Gonna have to get another one though. Anyway, not bad. Good color. Sabby was talking about just in general how blue states are bleeding population out to areas that are more affordable, which tend to be places in the South that are red states. California, Washington, to some degree, Oregon, Illinois, home of Chicago, New York State, Baltimore, Boston. No, more Boston than Baltimore. Anyway, she says people are moving from blue states and cities to places like Texas, especially Austin and Nashville, California, Chicago, New York City, Boston. But as more and more people move out to these trendy places like Memphis and Austin, the cost of living, housing, food, everything goes up. Now, people are also moving from big cities because they can't afford housing in the area. And in the area means even 20 or 30 or 40 minutes away, hour away, to a place outside of the big city where it might be more affordable. If we had high speed rail like China, Europe, other places, people could get there in 20 or 30 minutes and not have to get an extra hour going, extra hour coming, 8 hours. That's also why people want to work from home. They just had it with paying all this. New York City has a downtown congestion tax now that $13 just to drive into the city because it's so crowded. We're trying to keep, well, then how are we going to get there? The trains aren't reliable or slow. And, if you could park outside the city and drive in, and bus in or something, but then probably cost $13 to park for a day. So people are just, as more and more people move to the South, they'll become unaffordable too. If there was high speed rail, people could commute to work. Plus, more people are working from home, so companies can't fill up their offices. So these downtown big city offices, half full or less. Big cities are just becoming playgrounds for the rich. Not many people coming in to work. That's where all the arts and trendy stuff, especially Hollywood and LA. Um, Big cities are becoming playgrounds for the rich. How the second segment she did is how the CIA used LSD as a weapon. No, this wasn't Sabby. This was me, chapter 2 in my book, Drugs as Weapons Against Us by John Poston. How the CIA used LSD as a weapon. Project MK Ultra was the CIA's umbrella name for at least several projects. Although the CIA director, Richard Helms, destroyed all of the CIA's MK Ultra files in 1973, he missed the financial department's files, about 30,000 documents, I believe. And that's where most of this information about Hollywood and drugs and um, trafficking and zombie killers, that's where all that comes from. Professor McCoy, I mentioned him earlier. Oh, something I wanted to do. Um, I'll take a break here, but a few weeks ago I'd mentioned this the break between the Catholic Church and Eastern Orthodox. So it was the Greek um, and what was it? Well, anyway, it was called the Schism of 1054, also known as the East-West Schism. The break of communion between the Catholic Church and Eastern Orthodox or Greek Church, centered in Istanbul, not Constantinople. So that's kind of a Latin versus Greek, Rome versus Greece divide, and that's what caused the schism. Issues issues can be like, you can't chew gum on Sunday, and we're going to the mats on this. No, the issues were one, the procession of the Holy Spirit, something known as Filioque, Filioque. Who knows? Filioque, maybe just Filioque. Issue number 2, whether leavened or unleavened bread should be used in the Eucharist. Oh, wow. Big deal. There was also iconoclasm. So there were that was your image busters, people who didn't want to have images of anything. It's kind of like the Muslims just wanting artwork to represent their God and their religion. They were getting ready for the coronation of Charlemagne as emperor of the Romans in 800, and the Pope's claim to universal jurisdiction, and in relation to the pentarchy, whatever. But I remember Charlemagne. That was a big deal. The Holy Roman Empire. That's when it became the Roman Empire became centered out of Turkey, but the Pope stayed in the Vatican back in Rome. Vatican, remember, is its own little country, on about, I don't know, 40 acres or 20 acres or something, not very big. The third issue was the feud between Pope Leo IX and Michael I Cerularius of Constantinople, not Istanbul. Um, so that was just kind of it. I didn't want to read. What does the philique mean? What's the pen? It's can't chew gum on Sunday. We're going to Michael the First and Pope Leo the Ninth. We're going to war about this. But let's go back to chapter 2 from drugs as a weapon against us. And the Project MK Ultra is like a billion times bigger than any of these schisms, schism, dying to get to heaven in a Jesus name, said Peter Tosh. Although the CIA director, Richard Helms, destroyed, he didn't get them all the files. Professor McCoy wrote that Dr. Kurt Plotner and other Nazi scientists tested mescaline on concentration camp prisoners during World War II. Then Project Paperclip saved 700 Nazi scientists, which over time grew to 10,000 Nazis saved. Many came to this country, most went to Argentina. 1,600 of them were transferred to the Cold Springs Harbor Lab and Brookhaven Nuclear Lab on Plum Island to work on nukes, nuclear bombs, rockets, guidance systems, and eugenics. Remember, the chosen ones. And also they worked on biological weapons, psychedelics, meeting regularly with Swiss Sandoz scientist Albert Hofmann, inventor of the link of spiritual gahuri, as the Firesign Theater said, LSG. Wait a minute. Some of the worst Nazi scientists included Herbert Gertzner, had programmatically killed German children. Hubertus Strughold tested psychedelics on concentration camp prisoners at Dachau, and he killed many via gasoline, crushing them, freezing them, and other tortures. In 1938, Albert Hofmann created LSD while working for Sandoz, a subsidiary of IG Farben, the IG Farben cartel. The Swiss Big Pharma, IG Farben, had previously handled much of the European opium traffic. Sandoz gave Joseph Mengele, who experimented with it, gave him Mengele must be either opium or psychedelics. I think it was more. There were psychedelics tested in World War II. I'm not sure which substance Mengele used with his evil experiments. Then there was Gordon Wasson, kind of a hero of mine. I bought his book about psychedelic mushrooms. I used to go out in the woods and learned all about Amanita muscaria. Don't just power that one down, baby. It can kill you. If you peel the little red and white, the red cap off with the little white dots, it's the white dots that kill you. I was a real sucker for everything psychedelic. And I can't really say that I am any better off today for it. I think I mainly could have gotten exactly where I am now without psychedelics. But Gordon Wasson, who had been working as a vice president of J.P. Morgan, mushrooms, Morgan, mushroom, what's this? What? For the CIA, for J.P. Morgan, reported that he and several scientists began working for the CIA in the early 50s, roaming the world in search of poisonous and psychedelic mushrooms. Next operation, Operation Bluebird, which was which use drugs, electroshock, hypnosis, psychosurgery to control people during interrogations to make them tell the truth. Truth serum. At the Naval Medical Research Institute in Bethesda, Maryland. Project called Artichoke was involved experiments in Lexington, Kentucky. Kept drug treatment patients tripping straight for 77 days in a row. The Committee on Present Danger propagandized the myth of the USSR technical superiority in nukes. Present now, what did that propaganda? I guess they used the fear of the Red Menace to support work on the. Oh well, the CIA said the Soviets were planning to put LSD in the U.S. water supply, and so that's why we had to, ramp up all these countermeasures, which involved doing exactly what we said the Soviets were doing. Plan to put LSD in water supply. I think I read about this, or I wrote about this a little later on. Boy. Soon MK Ultra became an umbrella term. Richard Helms was an assistant deputy in charge of covert operations. He supervised Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, like the mad LSD scientist, CIA scientist, Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, ran the program, ran the MK Ultra program, the umbrella program, which covered a lot more than just LSD, to see if it could be used as a potential incapacitant and for the purpose of assassinations. So not just trying to, scramble people's minds or flipping them out or making them addicted or something. It was used to make people comply one way or the other. And either, well, never mind. Also, he experimented with cancer-causing compounds and radiation warfare. And before he died, Bob Marley complained to him on stage that the lights, he could just feel them giving him a huge headache. And he thought it was some kind of harmful radiation or something. And it was eventually his sound engineer, who was the son of one of the ex-CIA directors, Colby. This was Colby Jr., gave Bob a pair of boots that had a carcinogenic needle in the tip of the toe. So when he put the boot on, he got cancer and it spread and it killed him after a year or so. CIA agents came from some of the wealthiest families, and they considered leftist leaders to be their enemies. So they didn't want these lefties protesting the war. They wanted them incapacitated, marginalized, ignored, addicted, brain-addled, hypnotized, psychological operations, anything, everything, all of the above. They developed a hit list of leaders to dose, damage, and discredit. Some were arrested and put under the care of MK Ultra scientist Dr. Louis Jolly West. So you had Gottlieb at the top and his main henchman working in San Francisco's free healthcare clinic, Jolly West, working with Manson and others, and making sure Owsley, who was had a dad in military intelligence, making sure Owsley had all the chemicals he needed to make his bathtub LSD, tens of thousands of hits produced at a time, distributed at these acid test parties with Kesey and the Grateful Dead. And Owsley was the sound manager and the site manager and the everything else manager. God, I just can't believe how easy it was for him. Just, all these, if you're going to send for all these runaways, flower in their hair, 16-year-old nubile girls falling under the influence of Vito, what's his name, and his dance troupe that appeared at all the birds and all the love concerts. And the guys mainly showed up to see the nubile dancers dancing on the dance floor more than they paid attention to the birds, who were not very polished. Mostly their sound and love sound came from studio magic. Anyway, I think I get into that later on. Besides damaging leftist leaders, the MK Ultra docs wanted to increase American rulers' global dominance. One doctor, Humphrey Osmond, enlisted brave New World author Aldous Huxley as a proponent of psychedelics. Osmond gave him mescaline in 1953, and Huxley wrote about it in his book, The Doors of Perception. I read it, pretty good. Kind of gave you an idea what to expect when you start doing the mescaline, mushrooms, LSD. I did a lot. I didn't do a lot of super big doses because after 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5, I kind of got the picture of what that was. And I could talk for 18 episodes kind of about what that picture is, but it just my deal was, and I think this is probably true for everybody, that the doors of perception are flung wide open when you take a heavy dose of psychedelics, and that there's no filter for everything, and I mean everything that's out there coming in. Some you can see, smell, hear, sense, sight. Some is extrasensory. Some is kind of a gut reaction to. Some is sixth sense. Some is ESP. Some is cosmic. The cosmic trigger. That's what Robert Anton Wilson's one of his books was about the Illuminati was about. Doors of perception. Osmond continued his LSD experiments at Princeton University. LSD, MDA, and the murders of whistleblower there was a tennis star who was kind of blowing the whistle on these experiments, and he ended up nobody I ever heard of. And I used to follow tennis, but nobody I'd ever heard of. This is the early 50s. There was a push in the early 50s. A push began for mental hygiene departments. This sounds like, borax for the brain, or Clorox for the brain, maybe. Mental hygiene departments that were close to eugenics. Funded by John D. Rockefeller, world's first billionaire. Eugenics deemed 70% of the Jews deserving death. So you see here, like this harkens back to the Zionists, who really never had much of an idea about settling in Zion, ancient Palestine, until the late 1800s. And then they just started saying, hey, what if we piggyback on to what the Jews have going, and we try to get war against the Palestinians and try to get us in there instead of the Palestinians or the Jews. If we can get the Jews to exterminate the Palestinians the way the Germans exterminated the Jews in World War II, Then we can get everybody to blame the Jews for what happened. And when they suffer the backlash from killing a million or so Palestinians and forcibly removing the rest, we'll just move in and start from there. We've already got a foothold in Syria. We've already got a foothold here, foothold there, influencers. We did a coup here, a coup there. So that's the big plan. And eugenics, funded by John D. Rockefeller, deemed 70% of the Jews. I guess they will have a chance to convert to Christianity when the second coming happens. And that's when the rapture happens. And that's when the Jews will have a chance to convert. If they don't convert, they go into the lake of hell with all the other non believers. So I guess that's what they mean by 70%. They figured most wouldn't go for it. It's like the Palestinians, they'd rather die than go along with this crazy stuff. Several whistleblowers were persecuted, prosecuted, and murdered. 1951, Project SPAN involved aerosol sprayings of LSD on the town of Pointe Saint Esprit, France, resulted in several deaths and many injuries. 1951, just LSD. Oh, fuck. And probably in huge doses. For there to be deaths, people would have to figure they already were dead and going just, crazy in hell, and we're looking for a way to end it. Lafi was a hitman and a major trafficker of opium in a network that included Meyer Lansky, the old mobster from New York City that got up and down the East Coast into Cuba, got his people out to Las Vegas to set up the people who were with Batista in Cuba that got run out by the Cuban Revolution. Anyway, they had to go somewhere, right? Meyer Lansky, a Canadian doctor, uses LSD for torture. That would be Dr. Ewan Cameron, used LSD and electroshock therapy in conjunction with repeatedly playing tape recorded messages to de-pattern and then recondition people he diagnosed with schizophrenia. So he diagnosed just anybody, and then electroshock, LSD, psyops, de-patterning, repatterning in their own zombie, yes, master, I will obey way of doing things. The victims have sued and the CIA always settles out of court. So this has been going on, like I said, from since the 50s. And people have gotten big bucks because they can prove all this stuff, but it never goes to trial. The CIA just print up a couple million and give it to them. That'll shut them up. Secret brainwashing, massive doses, and brain damage leading to murderous experiments on prisoners in Auschwitz. So that was going on long before the 50s. One man whose LSD use initiated long-term psychosis was Mark Vonnegut. I read this guy's book too, The Eden Express, son of Kurt Vonnegut. Mark ended up in a mental institution after several large doses. And he wrote about these trips in his book, The Eden Express. Conservative think tank leaders commented on their success at spreading the use of LSD to cultivate a tune in, turn on, drop out society. and they have proven Timothy Leary was on the CIA payroll. He was not an agent. They were just saying, "Hey, Dr. Tim, we're really into the LSD thing. We think it might save the world too. Here's 10,000 hits. If you need more, just ask. Oh, and here's some money. If you need more, just ask." And then, we just wanted to see what happens. We record the results. Anyway, they used LSD to cultivate a dropped out attitude with American youth, not a tuned in to the atrocities in Vietnam, not anti-war activism, but addiction, decreased mental capacity, uh, just not giving a shit. Then Matt Taibbi came up with a kind of, I was just listening to somebody's program, I think it was interviewing him, and he said 40 out of the 50 richest congressional districts in the United States are blue. Now, remember how, the Republicans, GOP, old money, big business, Democrats, hey, we're for the working class. We don't need those big bucks. We're all on your side, average American. But no, if you take, and where would they be? Silicon Valley, maybe Upper Manhattan, maybe I don't know, the toniest districts in Chicago and LA. But Matt sees the Democratic Party today similar to the violin quartet on the Titanic. The guys who glub, 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 going down with the ship. Not enough lifeboats. Too bad. Then I think I came back to Sabby's show, and she had Cat Williams on. Same way, what's his name? Kit Caballo has Cat Williams on going, all lies will be exposed. And I texted Kit and said, get Cat Williams. Hey, he's not only funny, but he's right on. He knows all about the Illuminati and these all the Hollywood scandals. And a couple of years ago, Cat Williams was on Club Shay Shay, sports guy, football, ex-NFL footballer that had Cat on. And that's where the quote came from, all lies shall be exposed in 2024. And boy, did they ever. I mean, the Diddy thing, the Epstein thing just bled over into Hollywood and New York and the Mossad and Israel and Chicago and everywhere. So let's see. Sabby was talking about how a fairly conservative podcaster named Roland Martin has had guests on that all are echoing what Sabby and Jimmy and Dudes and single lens reflex or whatever single. I don't know. I always forget Kit Caballo's show. But everything they've been saying about the lies that Democrats have been telling, Russiagate, Laptop Gate, COVID Gate, Insurrection Gate, Proxy War, and Genocide Gate. Gate. But in this case, she's talking about Kanye West accuses Kim Kardashian and her family of human trafficking. A fairly, hey, I thought only Epstein or Diddy or, so the Kardashians too? Well, maybe not. Then she mentions how Cori Bush's husband got accused of fraud, of wire fraud, of cheating on COVID relief funds. Cori said she couldn't afford what the security agencies were wanting to charge her. She couldn't get federally funded security. So she had to hire her husband, and he hired some people, and they all did the best they could, but she paid them from this COVID relief. And so everybody says that's cheating. Now, it's interesting because Sabby kind of says, like, hey, she needed security. But then later on, I forget where it was. Um, I believe it was Kit Caballo that said that was fraud. Now he's white, Sabby's not. Her husband, I don't know, is or is not, but it kind of shows you how these podcasters will argue. And I mentioned a couple weeks back about the rift between Matt Taibbi and his buddy on his show America This Week, Walter Kern, just ran afoul of a lot of people. Candace Owens invited Matt on to, why won't you take a stand on Gaza? And Matt says, I don't know enough about it. And I think I should have freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And you can't make me or condemn me for not saying something. Well, other people said, Matt, then you can't really call yourself a journalist. You're a political commentator. And so he hasn't really come out and said, yeah, I'm a journalist ever since he was hauled into Congress about the Twitter files. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz called him a so-called journalist. So anyway, and Walter Kern got into a spat with Whitney Webb, and I saw Walter on the Fox News Gottlieb show. Disgusting, horrible. Every show starts off with like 10 or 15 minutes of bad, put down humor, mean jokes about anything leftist, anything woke, anything. And they're just, I mean, I've been saying for 10 years, ad hominem attacks are about the cheapest way to argue. Just, well, you're an idiot. What? Well, that's take a lot of smarts, a lot of sense to argue that line, or just to always interrupt, or to shout down, or to change the subject. And I've talked about these things many, 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 many times. But then Sabby went on about Gal Gadot, and she likes to focus on two or three wild and crazy stories. Most of them are just kind of disgusting. Just I don't know. People are mean. People are weird. People are outrageous. But Gal Gadot, I guess she starred in, I don't know, Cinderella, or I don't know, Wicked or something. uh, Relatively new, like she's only been around for a couple years. Star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Most people have to be in a dozen movies or wait 20 years to get a star, but after only a year or two, Gal Gadot gets a star. Let's see. Oh, and then she goes on to about Bernie and AOC's anti-oligarchy tour. Boy, it does get to be funnier and funnier. Both parties are in bed with big bucks. Harris bragged about her endorsement from Goldman Sachs, Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, all the people that all the Democrats hated during W. Bush years. She being AOC, Bernie are fighting back, blaming Trump, Musk rump. I had to look up Musk. What a horrible word. Ugh, disgusting stuff. Elon's pretty disgusting too. Sabby mentioned the Jim Clyburn endorsement after Bernie won the first three primaries in 2020 and was about to win the fourth. The fourth was going to be in the South, but Jim Clyburn endorsed Joe, and the DNC convinced all 6 of the other people running to drop out and throw the weight behind Joe B. Biden. So Bernie says we're creating a new party within the Democratic Party. He says, don't run as a Democrat like me. I'm independent. Run as an independent, which is a severe criticism of Democratic leadership. He stresses run as an independent, like a write-in candidate or something, whatever, not as a third party. He does not want the Greens or anybody else to get momentum going to as people become disgusted with Democrats, and soon the MAGA minions will be disgusted with Trump, I'm sure. But Bernie doesn't want you to go into a third party. He just says, everybody should run as an independent. That's the way to change America. No restrictions and state requirements. The way to break the duopoly is by using it's hard to get a third party going because of restrictions and state requirements and lawsuits. The New York Times, major media, is sponsoring his tour. They're all in for his message. Then you had the Department of Justice. I'm not sure if this is Sabby again or Kit. DOJ investigating Cori Bush, possible fraud, employed hubby as security, ethics investigation. They said it was no big deal, the Bush campaign, but the Department of Justice says big deal. Previously on her campaign, improper use of funds, she said she was targeted after she came out in favor of defund the police and the bombing of Gaza. So I think this is still Sabby talking. Her husband was indicted for the pandemic loan fraud, seeking funds. He got $20K in government funds. Wire fraud is the charge. Kit Cabello is his name. Cabello, I guess. He then credited her for the fraud, her husband for the fraud, and more on the Gal Gadot controversy. I guess she played Wonder Woman. That was her big claim to fame. But she has no sympathy for dead kids in Gaza. She's got her star. She endorsed the movie. There were protests against the movie called No Other Land about the occupation, that the Palestinians have no other land than their homeland to go to. No Other Land won an Oscar, but it's unavailable in the US, and very little publicity went out about it. Protests against Marvel for the Israel Defense Fund, superhero Israel female soldiers are featured too. So there were Israeli female soldiers featured in these Marvel movies, and there were people in Hollywood protesting against this. The one person said, one person in the no, one person who was in favor of the IDF superhero said, "Are you worried about security?" And she said, "Oh, the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, has our backs." Gal Gadot said, "I must advocate for the hostages." Ceasefire, temporary, so that's not really a solution. You know, you can call ceasefire, and that just sets the stage for Israel to violate it. It's temporary, then it goes back to business as usual. Bernie said, "Can't have a permanent ceasefire with an organization like Hamas." Well, that's the end of story then, right, Bern? Another lie, this is back to Sabby's all lies will be exposed. Kanye West accuses Kim K of running a trafficking ring, the sex trafficking of black children. He called Jay-Z and Beyonce's kid retarded. Um, because they're artificially inseminated. I think that was what he was trying to get at. There is some disability with the twins. They're the twin kids of Jay-Z and Beyonce, but that should be kept private. Kanye West. Ye includes the Kardashian family into the sex trafficking of black children. And Kim became famous with a sex tape, and then Ye married her. So, like, he's kind of digging up dirt on himself as well as the fam. The sports star Lamar Odom says that family's messed up. I just got some notes I took from Due Dissidence. I've only got about 15 minutes, but if I have any time at all, I'm going to read more from Drugs as a Weapon Against. It's just too much. I'm reading now the weird scenes from the canyon, talking about Laurel Canyon, and all my heroes are now zeros. The Byrds, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Neil Young, all these groovy groups, Mamas and Papas, Frank Zappa, The Doors. Oh, yeah, they're all in on it. MK Ultra kids, programmed from birth, well, actually from age 3. All their parents involved with intelligence agencies or the military or the military. So then here's Russell Dobler talking, just kind of trying to. It might have been somebody interviewing Jimmy Dore. Anyway, he's saying, like, used to be Democrats were pro bodily autonomy, my body, myself, pro free speech, pro labor unions. They were anti-war, anti-censorship, anti-authoritarianism. And he finds it now weird to be, they don't say freedom of choice, because people didn't have freedom of choice during the pandemic. They could not choose to refuse the vax. So Democrats who want to be true to the blue have now come out saying that we're pro abortion. We want the Supreme Court to make Roe v. Wade back in. And we want the Democrats to finally codify Roe v. Wade so it'll be in the Constitution, and somebody like Trump can't just, exit out again. So I kind of agree with Jimmy about it is weird to be pro-abortion. Yeah, kill the fetus. Kill the what? Wait a minute. What about pro-choice? Bodily, isn't that a better, nicer, mellower message? The Fems and Dems used to be for bodily autonomy. COVID and partly Obama too, but COVID really flipped the script. The liberals used to be for bodily autonomy, anti war, pro worker, anti authoritarian, free speech, flipped in 2021. And now, for, between 2021 and 2024, that you have the Biden administration being called woke snowflakes because they were so easily offended and they didn't want to be criticized. And they were starting to talk about freedom of speech or disallowing hate speech or any form of criticism that they didn't like. So now, and this is something that Russell said, every new administration, if it goes red to blue, blue to red, whatever, the newest holder of power in the Oval Office becomes the new snowflakes. People who want to, and this is Jimmy, people who want to ban hate speech, hate free speech. So they don't like, they want to censor. No, you can't say this about me or about my friends or about the poor Jewish people. It's just another form of control. Why can't I hate genocide? That's what Jimmy said. I don't like. Why you mean I'm not anti-Semitic because I hate killing women and children. I mean, come on, you're putting words in my mouth. You're changing the subject. Berrio convinced Dems to think wars are okay. He took us from 1 war to 7. And I've talked about those extra 6 before. The DNC convinced libs to think the FBI is on their side with the Russiagate lies, laptop Fauci lies, convinced Dem libs that they should not do their own research, put their faith in Fauci and trust Dr. Science, and to hate the anti-vaxxers. Then January 6th branded MAGA minions as terrorists. Then the proxy war branded Putin as Hitler. Then the genocide branded critics of Israel as hate speech users to be censored. Critics should be deported, jailed as domestic terrorists. So that's kind of where we stand. I mean, just about as bad now as it's ever been. And I just want to get in a little bit here. Here's that guy I mentioned, Stanley Gottlieb, director of the CIA's MK Ultra, traveled worldwide to dose opponents. Remember, these guys are from wealthy family. Anybody who talks ill against the government or the war or government programs is an opponent, an enemy to be crushed with LSD and other drugs. So here's Dr. Sidney Gottlieb. All right, there he is, adding some LSD to some nefarious chemical dosage. Chapter 3 has the CIA drug war on Asian and African leaders. After World War II, let's see, we're talking about the Civil War in China, 1949, Chinese People's Liberation Army, led by Communist Mao Zedong, overthrew the old US-backed colonialist government in China. 49. Mao introduced food crops to replace the poppy fields and led a massive detoxification campaign that eliminated demand in the world's largest addict populations. Those who refused to give up their addictions were sent to labor camps. So the Kuomintang nationalist leader at the time of Mao's revolution was Generalissimo Chiang Kai shek. He retreated in defeat to the island of Taiwan, Formosa at the time, while national Chinese generals and many thousands of troops also retreated to Burma. So some went east, some went west, some jumped over the cuckoo's nest. And the Burmese, adjoining China, the Burmese army drove some of these troops into Laos. Both Burma and Laos, these generals cultivated vast new poppy fields similar to the ones they had presided over in China previous to 1949. From 1950 onwards, the US military and intelligence also aided Chiang Kai shek and his generals' attempt to regain control of China. So, again, using opium to pacify them asses and to regain as much power and control over the whole area as possible. By 1950, weapons manufacturing companies in the US gathered politicians to form the Committee on the Clear and Present Danger. Under the leadership of Paul Nitze and Dean Acheson, they influenced President Truman to pass the National Security Council Directive 68. This sounds like Hamilton 68, that called for military containment of the Soviet Union. NBC aired a weekly televised program to promote it. This initiated anti-communist Red Scare, or the Cold War, that lasted over 3 decades, as we all know. The fight against the Red Menace was first played out in Korea, country bordering communist China's northeast. By the end of World War II, the Japanese had controlled Korea for over 50 years. After World War II, Korea was divided in half, with the Soviet Union occupying North Korea and the US occupying South Korea. Around 1950, border skirmishes between the two territories ended, with American soldiers fighting for South Korea and Red Chinese soldiers sent to defend North Korea. Red Scare propaganda helped President Truman recruit many more American soldiers to fight the North Korean communists in the Korean War. Then we get into the mid-50s, and the U.S. Air Force dropping 800 tons of napalm per day. 800 tons per day, yes, on North Korea. An American insider and Asian investigators said the U.S. also dropped biological weapons on Korea. One source estimated that 8 to 9 million Koreans died in the war, about 20% of their population. I'm going to skip about the soldiers got into northern Burma and got the peasants began cultivating the crop they knew best, opium poppy. And then we wanted to get some of those generals that escaped China back in, and they went in with small military contingents. They were armed. They were officially, the arms were intended to equip the warlords for a return to China. In fact, the Chinese wanted them to repel any attack by the Burmese. Yeah, I didn't get into all of this. It's a little bit more complicated than I wanted to delve into. But in brief, I did highlight this. The U.S. followed a CIA directive to arm these longtime opium trafficking generals, partly for a counter-revolution in China. Back to Professor McCoy, he backed Collins' assertion that the CIA also helped arm the Chinese nationalist generals in Burma to protect their opium crops from attacks by the Burmese army. So that's who um, the soldiers from the Nationalist Party had to deal with. Some went to Taiwan, not much opposition there, but going into Burma, you had the Burmese army to deal with. The CIA supported the nationalist Chinese while they became opium barons of the Golden Triangle area of Burma, Thailand, and Laos. According to McCoy, CIA activities in Burma helped transform its Shan states into the largest opium growing region in the world. I am going to stop there because, oh, wait, I'm going to get down to the next paragraph because it starts a new section. Let's see, late 52, generals once loyal to Chiang Kai-shek led thousands of nationalist mercenaries to help them expand their territories in Burma. Burmese army pushed back, found American consultants' dead bodies on the battlefield. Consultants, right? March of 53, 4 months before the end of the Korean War, Burma took its case of nationalist Chinese and American aggression before the UN. Burma won a resolution for the national Chinese generals and soldiers to be deported to Taiwan. Professor McCoy detailed how the U.S. ambassador to Thailand, senior advisor to the CIA, helped orchestrate a fake exodus of nationalist generals and soldiers impersonated by tribal boys that actually left all the generals and most of the mercenary nationalist Chinese soldiers where they were in Burma protecting the opium fields. So I'm going to get ready for due dissidence. I hope anybody who's watching does the same. I'm just going to put this here and this here and get ready for next week. Probably just stick with this. The news just seems to be a replay of 2021. And like I say, the Republicans and Trump and the GOP are the new snowflakes, and the Democrats don't have any platform at all. They can do is suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. And so it goes. We're all doomed. All we can do is mitigate some of the disaster. But mitigate we should. We should just raise our tiny fists. I'm still handing out anti-war form letters with my two representatives in Congress and the one senior in Congress, senator. Give them their address, give them a form letter, plenty of room to write whatever else you want to. We should have health care, not warfare, all that good stuff. And slogans, they can go a long way. I mean, you need to kind of use slogans just to get people's attention. It's kind of like Jimmy and the, used to be for bodily autonomy and for, the woman's right to choose. Now it's for pro-abortion, kill the fetus. The Supreme Court's full of evil people because of Trump, and the Trump derangement syndrome has made me lose my mind. The news doesn't really interest me much anymore. I mean, it just seems like Netanyahu's going to have his way. He's going to probably kill anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million Palestinians before it's all over, and then just forcibly remove the rest to somewhere in the Negev desert in part of Egypt, but you can't grow anything. There's very little water there, and it's probably game over for the Palestinians. Nobody's riding to the Houthis. Ansar Allah have been trying. They're trying to like take the United States out of the formula, say we're not attacking U.S. anymore, but we still are going to attack Jewish flag ships. And United States can't have that. Got to make sure that we accuse Ansar Allah as being a proxy of Iran and focus on the last of 7 countries that were slated for coup or destruction or civil war right after the Patriot Act was passed. And sure enough. Okay, guys, thanks for anybody who's watching. See you next week. Bye now.